Hello, fellow traders. 'Tis I, the Rumpled One, coming to you on October 31st, Halloween. The year's 2021. Let's talk trading. It's time for the weekly open and gap. These videos are for educational purposes only. Your results may differ from mine. Let's get right into it. On the weekly, we still have some open gaps. Just got a high touch alert on the pound dollar there. But yeah, we still have some open gaps. In fact, one of them being the dollar yen. Might want to pay attention to that. And the other one being the euro yen. Definitely want to pay attention. And we can see here the pivot is 37.27 on the weekly. Midpoint being 37.48. Let's see if those get taken out this week. We are in the opening range for the year. We go all the way back there. It's the first day of the year, opening range. And we can break out of that opening range if we get above 37.03. We already broke out of the previous week's low. So no inside bar this week. And a quick look at the monthly. You can see we put in a huge upper wick on Friday. And it looks like price wants to get back into that upper wick zone. And that's on the monthly chart. So 42 pips above the monthly open, 2 pips above the monthly, weekly, daily open at the moment. Okay, inside bar on the daily was 5 days ago. We had 4 weeks ago and 1 month ago. We had inside bars. Not too much inside bar action I see right at the moment. And looking at the seasonality and that I added to the dollar TRO time. And you know, it's funny. I know I posted this on Crestlick, but I'm having a hard time finding it. But it says price peaks in early November and the price slides in the mid to late November. So let's just see what happens and see how these seasonalities play out. So far, after 5 hours of trading, you can see no pairs have hit the 100 pip range threshold so far. And right here, looking at the buy zone, we can see we open below the pivot. So what's the daily pivot? And so we have a bias to trade toward that pivot, 37.18. Rats, range is way too short at this point in time. So we have the daily pivot, 37.18, weekly pivot, 37.27. And the monthly pivot is where? The monthly pivot's down at 136.505. That's kind of interesting. Oh yeah, I guess that makes sense. The pivot would be down here. And once again, we've got that monthly pivot, 36.50. Come back to the weekly. You can see here, this week's pivot's the only one that's been missed so far. And the daily, we had 2 missed pivots in October. And a missed pivot right here in June. So it'll be interesting to see which way price goes. Wick zone, looks like we in and out of the lower wick zone a couple of times. And looking at the ranges once again for last week, We can see we were at the 41 percentile. We didn't break out of the high. We did break out of the low. On the simple price action chart, you can see we need to break out of the last hour's high or low. The high was at 36.85, the low 36.77. So we know price has to range out of there. Got a 3-ball at the bottom, looking to see if price maybe wants to put in a 1-ball, 2-ball, or 3-ball somewhere at the top here. And looking at the higher low, lower high template, we can see here we had a couple of moves out of the lower high box, but we're only talking a few pips. It's still early in the trading day in the Asian session. I don't recall any questions off the top of my head from traders over the weekend. Maybe you guys are out trick-or-treating. I don't know. But it was definitely an interesting day last week here on the pound. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red H1 candles in a row, a little reversal. And if you notice this pattern, what's that? That's an order block. And you can see here, price came back down to the order block. Actually, it broke through it here. So we'll see what happens if the buyers are going to take over or if the sellers are going to take over. And if I remember correctly, I was talking to the traders about the rat zone last week and about moving up a time frame or chart period or two if you're having problems getting cut up, meaning you enter trades, they go against you, you get stopped out. That usually happens, especially people trading off of M1 and M5. I see it a lot. And so what happens is as you move up time frames, you'll get less and less entry signals, but a lot of times those entry signals will be a lot stronger, a lot more profitable. So you can see here, it could be easy to take wanting to come up here and then all of a sudden see price drop against you 10 pips or so. But, as you move up time frames, looking for those same type of signals, price even though price is the same on all charts, you won't be getting the same signals. And so if you move up once again to M15, you can see here, put in a low, tried to make a new low, turned around, there was pips to be made. And if we do switch back to M5, you can see it here, put in that low, turned around, and came back up. Of course, that's hairy hindsight at the moment, but these are the type of things you look for. So once again, M15, or you can look at the M30 chart. And you can see here it put in the low, came back up, once again turned around, and you can see if you have the patience to stay in that trade, and then you can then break it down. So a lot of times what I'll do on these types of trades, if I get in on M30, then I might be looking at M15 to exit. So for example, if I got in at this level here off of that M30 and it came up here, and you can see here it failed to make a new high, left the wick zone, just take that profit. That wouldn't have been a bad profit. That would have been, 5 pips. And then you can see here what happened. Price came down. Once again, looking at these wick zones, started coming back up. You could have taken that same entry and picked up some more pips. And for the pivot fade, once again, you're playing statistics. And you put the trade on, you can set your TP, set your stop loss, and then just see what happens. So right now we're, let's see, 16 plus 27, 43 pips away from the weekly pivot. And you have a stop loss of about, let's see, about 16 or so. So for your risk to reward type traders, not a bad move. Not a bad move at all. Something to consider. And I'm looking at this huge return bar. So like here we had a huge one, price returned. Here we had a huge one, price returned. We had a huge one here, price returned to the open. So that's kind of what I like to look for. These huge return bars. It might take it a day or two to get there, but that would be a nice profit. So I know a lot of times we like to, Walmart and I, we're basically scalpers at heart. But then again, I sometimes like to look for those big gains, and that's just one way to look at them or look for them. Now, trying to remember if there was anybody had a question about an indicator. I don't recall any. I'm just looking at these charts once again here. This is the weekly. We can switch back over to the daily. That's the previous. This is the midpoint. See if price takes out that midpoint. Once again, you can look and see it usually does happen. I read something slightly interesting today, or was it yesterday, that one person said they either have success or learning experiences. They don't use the word failure. So it's kind of like in trading, you can have wins or losses. You can have wins, you can have some learning experiences. Because you'll probably learn more from a loss on things that either you should have done, shouldn't have done, need to do, than with the win. Because it's easy to get into a trade, take a loss, you look back, you go, oh, there was this reason I shouldn't have taken trade, that reason I shouldn't have taken a trade. So if you list those down, that's your guide to moving forward. Just need to, just be a little better each day than you were the day before. So, fellow traders, I hope some of that helps. And just remember, when you sit down at your trading platform, it's not what you trade, it's how you trade it. So go out there and drain the banks. This is TheRumpledOne, over and out. Happy Halloween.